started on public hearing for, like I said, items 2, 3, and 4. This is the Brodie Oaks Redevelopment PUD, and we'll go and start with staff presentation.
Good evening. My name is Wendy Rhoades with the Housing and Planning Department. This is the Brodie Oaks Redevelopment PUD, as well as a related restrictive covenant amendment and an SOS amendment that applies to this property. This property is located at the northwest corner of Loop 360 and South Lamar Boulevard, which is a designated core transit corridor. The property contains a vacated portion of the TxDOT right-of-way, as well as a commercial shopping center that was developed in 1981. The Barton Creek Greenbelt and trail is to the northwest, and there are apartments to the northeast on South Lamar. The PUD proposes a mixed-use development that would consist of up to 1,700 dwelling units, 200 hotel keys, 110,000 square feet of retail, and 30,000 square feet of restaurant uses. Internal circulation consists of private streets with public access easements. The maximum height proposed is 275 feet. That would be at the corner of South Lamar and Loop 360. And there are other lesser heights along the South Lamar and the Loop 360 frontage, and then lesser still on interior portions of the property. The PUD proposes 2 land use areas. The first land use area is generally located along South Lamar and Loop 360 and includes all of the development that I just described, as well as a central green area located in the central portion of the site that is proposed to include a performance area. Phase 1 is estimated to be occupied in 2027. The second land use area is at the northwest portion of the property, adjacent to the greenbelt, limited to 5,000 square feet of impervious cover and a height limit of 28 feet. As there are, with regards to superiority elements, the PUD meets all 12 of the Tier 1 items and offered some elements of superiority in several of the Tier 2 categories and subcategories. This PUD provides a pedestrian-oriented development that promotes living, includes affordable housing initiatives, employment and shopping, as well as accessible open space and connected trail improvements within a planned community setting. A traffic impact analysis was completed for this zoning case and includes a suite of transportation improvements needed to accommodate the additional density, including roadway infrastructure improvements, transit improvements, and active pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure improvements. I will just note a few of the factors that make this PUD superior, including affordable housing, a 1.5 acre site at the northeast corner of the property. This is adjacent to a neighborhood park and on the South Lamar frontage and adjacent to a planned transit stop. Other items include 3-star Austin Green building, as well as a new fire and EMS station within a mixed-use building that would provide better access to the green belt. Specifically, this would be 9,000 to 11,000 square feet of unfinished space. With regards to open space, the project is proposing 11.6 acres of open space, and 8.1 acres of that is adjacent to the green belt. I do want to talk, and there are numerous code modifications that are detailed on pages 9 to 14 of the staff report as well. I do need to mention the restrictive covenant amendment. That is another, the second of these 3 cases, and that is to terminate the maximum height limits as it pertains to 5 of the total of 9 tracks. So right now, those height limits on the property are from 35 to 60 feet, and the request is again to terminate the height limit so that the taller, denser mixed-use development can occur. With regards to how this project has moved through the development process, the project went to Parks and Recreation Board in September. The applicant is agreeable to all 4 of the parks recommendations. It went to Environmental Commission in early November, and the applicant is agreeable to 9 of the 21 Environmental Commission recommendations. The only outstanding issue at this time is Austin Energy has requested the applicant dedicate a 1.5 acre site for an above ground substation, in order to address capacity limitations. And the applicant has addressed their comment by allowing for major utility facilities as a permitted use within the land use areas, but is not agreeing to dedicating a site at this time. The staff recommendation is to grant approval of the PUD as outlined in the land use plan, a restrictive covenant for the traffic impact analysis, and an amendment of the restrictive covenant to terminate the height limitations for the tracts that are covered by the zoning area. And now I will turn it over to Leslie. She will discuss the environmental issues of the PUD.
Hello, good evening, Commissioners. I'm Leslie Lilly with Watershed Protection, and I am speaking about the SOS site-specific amendment associated with the Brodie Oaks PUD. And the reason that there is a site-specific SOS amendment is because the SOS ordinance restricts the ability to modify that section of code with the PUD ordinance, and the project is also does not meet the requirements for the Barton Springs Zone redevelopment exception. So this SOS site-specific amendment is specifically for increasing the impervious cover limit for the project. The current impervious cover on the site is 84%, and the proposed impervious cover limit is 56% net site area. This site-specific amendment will only apply to the Brodie Oaks development PUD project as it's proposed in this project, and it requires a supermajority approval at City Council. So the requirements that this project is subject to in terms of SOS include both impervious cover limits that are within the contributing and recharge zone of the Edwards Aquifer, which are 15 and 20%. They're delineated within some of the backup. You can see some of the exhibits. And the site is also subject to non-degradation water quality requirements that the proposed project is bringing the site into compliance with that, such that runoff is going to be treated from all impervious covers to meet the undeveloped conditions, meaning the conditions of runoff that would exist on the site if there was no development and no impervious cover there. So bringing the site into compliance with the non-degradation water quality requirements of the SOS is a really important feature of this project. In terms of environmental code modifications that are being requested with the PUD, it's important to take those two into account since the SOS code amendment is being requested in a different ordinance. The other three environmentally specific code modifications that are being requested are to cut fill 25.8.341 and 2, to have cut and fill not to exceed 14 feet, and then also code modification to 25.8.281, encroachment within the CEF setbacks of 2 critical environmental features that are on the site, which include a seep in the northern border, and then Airman's Cave, a cave feature that is under the site by 140 feet below the grade of the site. So the staff recommends this project, the Watershed staff provides support for this project due to the following conditions: that there's a reduction of impervious cover from 84% to 56%, that there's a clustering of impervious cover along the road frontages and away from the sensitive Barton Creek Greenbelt, that 2 acres of the tract are restored to native vegetation, 100% of water quality controls or green stormwater infrastructure, 50% of all landscaped areas will have landscape irrigation provided by rainwater. There's superior tree protections exceeding landscape requirements and complying with Austin Green Building 3-star rating and additional third-party certifications. And that concludes the staff presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We'll now proceed with the public hearing. Thank you. We'll begin with the applicant, Ms. Abby Gillifilan. You'll have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners. Let's see. Are you going to advance? Or?
Just next slide, please.
Got it. Good evening, Commissioners. Abby Gillifilan. I'm with Lionheart Places, representing the property owner. So this development is located, if you can go to the next slide. Is this, I think, is this the presentation?
Did you request to begin at slide 8?
No, if you could start at the beginning. Sorry about that. Okay, sorry. So this project, began the project in 2019, working with the applicant through the master planning process. We are anticipating, as was presented by Wendy, we're anticipating that we would not start construction on this as a large project until about 2025, with the first phase not opening until 2027. We have been through Parks Board on September 26th. We have initiated the SOS, site-specific SOS amendment. We've gone to Codes and Ordinances Committee and Environmental Commission. We've received a recommendation of approval from all of those boards, and we are proposing to meet all conditions with the exception of 2, which I'll review later. Next slide. We have reached out to 20-plus organizations, 100-plus hours. Some of the other things that we've done in addition to speaking with boards or organizations is that we had a working group assembled by Councilmember Kitchen's office where we brought everybody together to meet through that working group throughout the process. We've also had a presentation of the TIA. We did a height demonstration with cranes on site. We have a project website, and we also did hikes within the Greenbelt. Next slide, please. This is the site. You all are familiar. One of the things I wanted to point out here is that the corner there, it was once TxDOT right-of-way, is now part of the project. That's where the majority of the pervious cover on the site is located currently. So the site is currently 84% impervious cover, and we're proposing to bring it to 56%. Most of the perviousness comes from that. The other thing to point out there is South Lamar Boulevard and Loop 360 are both TxDOT right-of-way in this location. Next slide. There are a lot of things about this site that we want to bring into alignment with the current city of Austin, including lots of parking lots, surface parking lots, single-use retail, and there's a large wall against the back. Next slide. There are some assets on the site, a few assets, and those include some really nice trees that were prior to the development in 1980, which will be preserved, and there's some really nice views that will now be opened up to the public through parks, publicly accessible parks. Next slide. This is the first Imagine Austin center to redevelop an environmentally sensitive area. So it is a center in the Imagine Austin plan. It's one of the green dots. It is also located along Project Connect and core transit corridors. And so this development really is responding to both of those initiatives of the city. Next. We have a set of goals that we have developed at the beginning of this project and have brought all the way through, one of the top being ecology, so meeting the highest environmental and ecological standards. Next. These are the major community benefits on site: reducing impervious cover by 36%, approximately 200 units of affordable housing, 11 acres of public parkland, preservation of 100% of the heritage trees and 75% of the other trees. We're capturing and reusing 100% of the rainwater and that falls on the rooftops, and thereby offsetting potable water use by approximately 20 million gallons per year, reducing parking and employing a robust TDM program. Next. This is the development program, 140,000 square feet of retail, 1.2 million square feet of office, 1,700 units. Some of the other notable things is a commitment to local business. There's a 25% commitment. As well as a commitment to reserve 10,000 square feet for artists. Next. And you can go through these quickly. These are just showing all of the conditions that came out of the different commission recommendations. Our team is accepting all of those with the exception of 2 from the Environmental Commission, which is to reduce height, and mitigation within the Barton Creek watershed. And you can go through these quickly. This is that's the central green there in the center. It's about the size of Republic Square. This is South Lamar Corridor. Next. This is the central drive. And lastly, this is the development overall. So you can see one of the things that you can see here is that that wall comes down, and we really grade the site up into the Greenbelt. With that, I'll say that our team is all here for questions. We have our civil engineer, transportation engineer, and land use attorney. So we really appreciated everybody's time, and thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We'll now hear from Ms. Jean Wilkins. Ms. Wilkins will begin the speakers in opposition. Ms. Wilkins, you'll have 5 minutes.
I will not take up all that much time. Thank you for having us here. I represent Barton View neighborhood, and a couple of other people are here from the neighborhood. And I believe y'all received a letter from the neighborhood last week, or when we postponed it, addressing some of the concerns. I was extremely happy to hear that, it flashed up there very quickly, but it appears that some of the concerns that we had that were also shared by the Environmental Commission have been adopted, including the International Dark Skies, which I was part of the Zoom meetings that we had with the developers, and that was something that from the very beginning, I was really pushing for that. And I believe also the non-reflective glass, again, that was flashed up there very quickly. The Environmental Commission, their recommendation included the height reduction, use of international dark skies for light pollution and bird strike mitigation, and other considerations for bird-friendly builds such as low reflective glass. Part of the build at 275 feet, it's just going to be really difficult to mitigate when it's that tall. There's so many positives with this development. There are numerous problems, though, including environmental issues, traffic, neighborhood compatibility, accessibility to the site, light pollution still, and again, the bird strikes in the canyon-like setting, even though we're going to mitigate for light. And what I mean by that is, obviously, I mean, this is an old development. You know, I mean, nobody is going to argue that we need to preserve something like that, you know, with all that parking. So it's going to go across the street where Target is going to go, Central Market probably area, you know, eventually is going to go. But I think we need to be very mindful about that canyon-like structure that you can start putting into place for a number of reasons, heat, and also the you know, the bird mitigation situation of it. There is bike and walking accessibility within the build, which is really great, but our neighborhood is completely inaccessible to it. And the letter that y'all received, our vice chair actually wrote that letter, and she goes into great detail, so I would just ask that you read our concerns about our accessibility to the site, which we voiced with the developers from the very beginning. One thing that I found interesting, it was not brought up this evening, but in other meetings that we had, it was talking about that this build was in the activity center for redevelopment for environmentally sensitive areas. And according to the Imagine Austin, it clearly looks like it's next to it, near it, kind of across the street from it. But the green circle is not, I mean, from looking at the Imagine Austin map, it does not go over it. And one of the things that I'm wondering is that perhaps because at this point, the recognition when this was developed was that it will sit on top of Airman's Cave, which is very much a concern to us. One of our neighbors who's here this evening is not speaking. She gave me her time so we can like speed through this, is very involved in the spelunking community and has real concerns about the cave. And I'll go back to that in a second. The traffic analysis relies very heavily on the 803 bus route as a mitigation, and I understand that that is going to be improved, but we're very concerned about just the traffic impact in our neighborhood in that area of South Austin, us, Barton Hills, Zilker, and if this development can actually be supported by the South Lamar corridor. We strongly feel that the issue of the substation needs to be dealt with now. Austin Energy wants it on site, but the developer proposes placing it as far away from Brodie Lane, which was brought up at the Environmental Committee. That would necessitate high-voltage transmission lines over neighborhoods, possibly our neighborhood, if not our neighborhood, somebody's neighborhood. And so we're quite concerned, extremely concerned about that. Again, as I mentioned, I'm kind of speaking for a couple of people to speed things up. This is from Ingrid Morton, and she's extremely concerned and has spent a lot of time studying the map. That Airman's Cave, Del Rio Clay might not support the 275-foot structure with 80-foot excavation to get down there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Mr. Peter Hess. Mr. Hess, you'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Peter Hess. I'm with the Barton Hills Neighborhood Association. You said 3 minutes? Yeah?
Correct, 3 minutes.
Okay. I don't have enough time to cover all the points. So let me just essentially talk about the elephant in the room. 275 feet on top of the Barton Creek Greenbelt. That's really the big issue I have. I would love this. There's a lot to like about this project. I would love it if it was at Mopac, or no, if it's at Southhurst and Ben White. That'd be a wonderful project. This land was originally sold in the early 80s, and the owners, knowing about the sensitivity of the tract, put a restrictive covenant on the tract of 35 feet because they wanted to preserve the landscape and the integrity of the greenbelt. We asked the city to not to apply the VMU designation on this tract a decade ago, and this body approved and the city council approved. The Imagine Austin comprehensive plan labels this area as an activity center in an environmentally sensitive area. I don't think, I was part of that process, I don't think that we thought of a mini downtown over the Greenbelt when we thought of that designation. We thought of a much lower density development. This is a usually important test case. It's the first of such, mini centers that's going to be developed. If you let this go, then the apartment complex next door is going to go, and Barton Creek Square is going to go, and so on. It's going to be a long list of towers on the Greenbelt. Another issue, why a 275-foot tower hotel? What's the community benefit of a hotel on that site? That is 275 feet. Let me, one final point, a personal point. I listened during the SRS hearings in the early 90s. I listened to the hearings on KET radio. And during those nights, I decided to become a U.S. citizen. So I could vote. I thought it was a cool community. We could participate. This is a community who cares about the environment, cares about the Greenbelt, which I've been hiking for 35 years. If we now give this away, what city are we? Are we still caring about our basic values? Are we still caring about the Greenbelt? Or are we giving away a precious resource without getting very much in return? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the applicant for a 3-minute rebuttal.
I signed up to speak, by the way. I tried to, yeah. I was online and I signed up.
Registration closed at 5 o'clock, and Chair and I recompiled after that time.
No, I signed up as soon as I got the link, and for some reason it showed me only signed up for the compatibility item.
Mr. Chair, we don't mind if they speak.
Yeah, Mr. Rivera, could we allow 2 minutes perhaps for the speaker?
Of course.
Come on up, we'll give you 2 minutes if you can we've got a pretty heavy agenda, so I'm just trying to keep things going. But go and introduce yourself, and we'll start the clock and give you 2 minutes.
Thank you. Bill Bunch, Executive Director, Save Our Springs Alliance. I think you have unique circumstances here with the SOS amendment, which we supported with proper conditions. And the conditions include buying mitigation land that would reduce the overall impervious cover if you combine this site with off-site mitigation to below the 15% SOS impervious cover limit. I don't know why staff is recommending against that. That should be common sense. This current development is 360,000 square feet. The request is to go to 3.2 million square feet. So we're talking about not 100% impervious cover or density increase or 500, but almost 1,000% increase in density. Some substantial amount is enough, but with the height here, it's too much. Staff is also recommending against the height. They say they don't support it, and because the Environmental Commission referenced the canyon effect and bird strikes. The real reasons, and this is in my letter to you that's in the backup that was to the Environmental Commission, this violates the Climate Equity Plan and it violates the Imagine Austin Comprehensive Plan. It's documented in the attachment to the letter, citations throughout Imagine Austin. Never contemplated satellite downtowns anywhere in Austin, and certainly not in activity centers over the Edwards Aquifer. And the Climate Equity Plan calls for a climate emergency and designing our building structures to fit that. Skyscrapers are incredibly greenhouse gas emission intensive. We need mid-rise development that is much more climate friendly when you look at the overall picture, and is also happens to be consistent with Austin, Imagine Austin. Please look at the Hill Country roadway ordinance issues. We didn't have a chance to look at those carefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Where are we? We have 2 speakers I'm sorry, just a point of order here. Were you signed up? I'm just trying to get.
I tried to.
Okay, go
Wasn't
ahead.
able
We'll
to.
allow 2 minutes as well. Thank you.
And David just said he really thinks y'all need to hear what Sierra Club has to say.
Yes, I agree. So go ahead, please.
My name is Roy Whaley. I'm the Conservation Chair for the Austin Regional Group, the Sierra Club. And first, we appreciate the outreach that has been done on this project and the conversations and engagement, and that is appreciated. SOS Alliance and Austin Regional Sierra both have signed off on the reduction of the impervious cover and the variance to the SOS ordinance. The problem is our understanding at that time for Sierra Club was that there would be mitigation land bought elsewhere to go ahead and make up the difference. And that is what I think environmentally is our main heartburn there. We are concerned about Airman's Cave, and that if during construction there is any kind of breakthrough or crack or any kind of environmental recharge feature found, that construction shut down immediately until that can be resolved. Also, with the leveling of the back, we're concerned about runoff from the demolition, and we're glad that's taking place first, and water quality controls will be put in. But during that process, there's only about 15 feet behind that wall there for them to work. We would want to see a variance to the BCP to allow silt controls into the BCP, temporary, but also critical to protecting Barton Creek. And we would like to see that. We'd hope that the developer would ask for that also. But the main heartburn for Sierra Club is the lack of off-site mitigation. Yes, it's good to reduce this. There are concerns about the height and the embedded environmental impact that has. But again, it is, we need that off-site mitigation. I understand it's expensive. It's expensive everywhere right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Chair will proceed with the applicant rebuttal for 3 minutes.
Mr. Chair, Commission members, my name is David Armbrust, representing the applicant. I'm going to speak to two issues. I could speak to all the issues, but I don't have that much time. First of all, the height. From the very first day we started planning this project, we recognized how sensitive this site is. We knew we had to comply with SOS. We knew we had to do a grand job of everything about it. So we needed height to reduce the impervious cover, balance it out, comply with SOS. The height, we concentrated at the intersection of 360 and Lamar. A 275-foot tall building is roughly 24 stories, and I don't think I would consider that a high-rise. Those are all over. The height steps down from there. We intentionally did not create a canyon effect. The bird strike is an issue with respect to the glass. We will address that. Really, any high-rise, any building over 2 stories probably has a bird strike issue in this city. But we need the height to make the economics work, to make the impervious cover reduction. And then with respect to the mitigation land, when we started this process, there is an ordinance, the Barton Springs ordinance, the SOS ordinance, has already been amended once for a blanket exception called the Barton Springs Redevelopment Exception. It allows you to keep the same amount of impervious cover. It requires you to do some sedimentation filtration ponds, and then it requires you to buy mitigation land off-site. That's how we started. We were discouraged. Environmental community said, don't do that. That's too easy. Politically, that looks bad. It's just, we don't like the ordinance. If you really like this project, you think this is a great project, you need to go forward and create a project with lots of community benefits and amend the SOS ordinance for this project, which is what we're doing. So that's the path we came down. We are treating the water to SOS quality. We reduced impervious cover. There are many, many community benefits, as Abby pointed out. The mitigation land is part of that other process that we did not, that's where we wanted to be, but we're not there. So we think it's not appropriate to take that piece from there and put it in this process here when we need to have a 3/4 vote of the council because of all the things we're doing. Glad to answer any questions.
Chair, that concludes the speakers on this item.
Okay, we will stick with our, just need to go and close public hearing. We have a motion, Commissioner Azar, seconded by Vice Chair Hempel. Let's go and take a quick vote. Those on the dais and those on the screen. Commissioner Howard, let me see your color card. Thank you. That's unanimous. And yeah, we're still at 9. Okay, that's 900. Okay, let's go and start with questions. Who wants to start us off? Vice Chair Hempel?
Yes, I have a question. I believe this would be for the applicant.
Hold on one
and-
second. We're having a hard time hearing you. Go ahead. Speak again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I think this is a question for the applicant and maybe the city as well, but it's about if there could be a clear explanation about the off-site mitigation, like is that purchasing of property? How much does it have to be within the Barton Creek area? And just more explanation around that and why that should be separated from the 3 cases that we're looking at tonight. I'm not clear on that.
Hi, Leslie Lilly with Watershed Protection. So as the mitigation land or the mitigation funds are required, it's a process within the Barton Springs zone redevelopment exception where a property that is granted the redevelopment exception has to acquire land such that they reduce the overall impervious cover to the limits that are set forth in the Barton Springs zone. So in the recharge zone, actually, sorry, it's all 20%. It has to be below 20% for the redevelopment exception. And for this particular project, to get this project to 20% impervious cover, it would be 64 acres of land acquired to get it down to the 20% impervious cover limit as it's dictated in the redevelopment exception. Does that answer your question?
This is Liz Johnston, Deputy Environment Officer with Watershed. Also, the redevelopment exception is something that is associated with site plans. The code said it has to be with a site plan, so it's a little bit odd to have it with a PUD, and so previous staff said that, it's too low of a bar, so we were saying, that is not the baseline by which staff determine whether or not this project is superior because it's too low a bar. The water quality treatment isn't as good. Reduction of impervious cover is not required, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's not the baseline. However, it is a process that is outlined in the code, and so I think that that's where this request is coming from the community.
And the 64 acres that would need to be purchased, is that anywhere in Austin or within the Barton Creek watershed?
It would be somewhere within the Barton Springs zone.
And is there that much land available for purchase?
I can't answer that necessarily. One of the other conditions of the Barton Springs Zone redevelopment exception, so there's two options. There's purchasing land or paying into a mitigation fund. So those are two different options. The fund goes to watershed protection to buy land as well. There are conditions associated with the mitigation land purchase. There is a minimum requirement of 100 acres unless it is adjacent to existing mitigation land as well. So if this were redevelopment exception, we would say it needed to be, either adjacent to mitigation land, a minimum of 100 acres somewhere, or pay into the fund. Of course, PUDs are different. We don't have to do that. You could do something else, but our preference is usually larger tracts of land, not tracts of land under 100 acres.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners. Any other questions? Commissioner Azar? Oh, Commissioner Yans-Polito? Okay. Commissioner Yans-Polito, go ahead and you have the next question.
Thank you. I have a follow-up to Vice Chair Hempel's question, but wanted to see if Mr. Bunch from SOS had a response to that, or Mr. Whaley from Sierra Club, if either of you could comment on land availability and the feasibility of buying mitigation land for a site like this.
Thank you, Commissioner Bill Bunch, Save Our Springs Alliance. Yeah, there's tens of thousands of acres in the upper Barton Creek watershed that are still undeveloped and are up for grabs to be protected or developed. And buying land is one option. The other option is buying a conservation easement. And there's certainly landowners out there that I think would be very open to either one of those approaches. Thank you.
I may have other questions, but I'm not ready, so I'm going to give the rest of my time up to other commissioners.
All right, Commissioner Azar? Oh, boy, I'm missing him. Okay, Commissioner Mushthaler, please.
Thank you. You've got audio for me? Sorry,
Yes,
just double
we
checking.
can hear you.
Okay, great, thank you. I have a lot of questions. Let's see. I would like to know, we have legal available. What is the status of the memorandum of understanding that the applicant and BCP have asked you for?
Chair, Commissioner Liaison and Vera, I don't believe that's a legal matter. Staff will be available to discuss that.
Okay, I was told it was hung up with legal. Thank you.
Liz Johnston, Watershed again. I have heard that the paperwork has been sent to legal, and so it should be a matter of a month or two before it's taken care of.
Just for the rest of the commission, what is it we're speaking of this document?
There is a request from hydrogeology science staff with the BCP to have access to Airman's Cave in perpetuity so that they can have an access easement in order to do scientific experiments and research associated with the cave. And so this would be an easement granted to staff to access the cave.
Yeah, I think Sierra Club alluded to this a bit, that in general, the thought is that Airman's Cave is not endangered by this project, but that is in theory. So there are two things at play. One is BCP's mission to acquire easements to be able to monitor areas that are at risk, and this is one of those areas. And so the memorandum of understanding, and the applicant is amenable to this, is an agreement between those two to allow access for BCP staff to be able to go in and assess. The other part comes from ongoing surveillance of Airman's Cave, and that was something that Sierra Club alluded to, that if it was determined that there actually was an infraction or endangerment during construction, that there would be a process in place for overseeing this, and none of this has been completed, and none of it is ready for us or the applicant who is agreeable to it. If Mr. Armbrust wants to comment on that, I'm happy to allow that.
We are agreeable, and I've been dealing with Nico Howard, and he sent me some sample agreements. I drafted an agreement probably a month ago, 6 weeks ago, and sent it to him, and he was going to forward it to City Legal. But I think in concept, we're in total agreement. I just haven't had any feedback from the wording that I drafted. But it is to monitor the cave on an ongoing basis.
Thank you. I was going to ask a question of staff on the project. In the opening summary presentation, they said that some of the items meet superiority, but not all. So I'm confused on how we got to a superior that staff is recommending this goes superior if we have not met all of the items of superiority. I don't understand
that. Wendy, Rhoades, Housing and Planning. We're basing superiority on an overall and not whether every item is superior.
So we had, if I heard correctly, you said there were 43 modifications that were made for this PUD?
Yes, 43 code modifications.
Okay. And that also included basically waiving and gutting the Hill Country Ordinance, which was designed to protect environment and ensure some of the climate equity goals?
Yes, there was one to Hill Country Roadway, one modification.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. I think that's all my questions at this time. Oh, yeah. Actually, that's fine because I actually have another question for the applicant as well. So I'll.
Yeah, well, Commissioner Mooschalder, you want to continue with your next question or allow the applicant to speak?
Let me ask my question and then they can answer both, and that's fine. There was on the slide deck, there was a slide of the organizational, the presentations that were done with community engagement and listed out the community organizations that they had presented to. And so, so far I'm seeing only 3 organizations come out from that saying that they have comments on it, and none of them are in full agreement with the PUD. So do we have any organizations that are agreement with superiority of this PUD at this time?
Just real quick, and we may allow more time later, Commissioner Mushtaller, but for now, let's go and who would answer that? Staff? Whoever is best suited to answer the question, then we'll go ahead and turn over to another commissioner for questions, and we can come back if you have more.
The organizations that I did receive positive comments from were Austin Parks Foundation and the Hill Country Conservancy.
Okay, well, let's stop there. We may open it up if there's continued interest and questions. We can extend a few, but who's next? Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you, Chair. I've received a couple of questions about affordable housing, and I do see Mr. Moreau back there. I'm curious if I can ask him or the applicant a question, but we've been asked how this might work with affordable housing, and I was just curious if you can maybe share your thoughts on how you see this working out for foundation communities.
Good evening. I'm Walter Moreau, the Director at Foundation Communities. We're super excited about this location. We've been in conversation with the applicant to build a purpose-built, affordable family community. We're looking at 100 to 130 units, at least 100 units. Our focus is to work on 2 and 3 bedrooms, so really want to count bedrooms, not units. It's rare to find the sites that are large enough that can make this work, especially in a central location like this. I believe the mechanics would be, the PUD approval would be predicated on the developer delivering on-site affordable housing, and then we're looking forward to having a written MOU with the developer team to be their chosen developer to work on the site.
Great, thank you. Maybe a question for staff. Are there any Austin water plants downstream from this site? That's come up a few times. Just curious about that, and if so, and if not, and maybe this is maybe for Watershed, could you share maybe what you expect to see the difference between the water flowing off this site today under current conditions versus after redevelopment?
Okay, I do not know the nearest water plants, and I think the second question is Watershed is, staff is approaching.
Hi, Leslie Lilly with Watershed Protection. There are no water treatment facilities downstream from this site. And in terms of the water quality flowing off the site, the water quality controls that exist today have almost no treatment of the water that is flowing off the impervious cover into the Barton Creek Greenbelt. And one of the conditions of approval of the PUD staff conditions was compliance with the SOS non-degradation water quality requirements that would require the water quality infrastructure on site to treat the water flowing off impervious surfaces such that it does not increase pollution and sedimentation from the undeveloped condition. And that condition is the condition when there's no development, no impervious cover. So the expectation of the developed project as proposed in the PUD would have a water quality that is equal to that of the undeveloped condition.
Thank you for that. So I went to this site this past weekend and I noticed it almost looked like somebody just dumped oil out on the parking lot. I mean, there was just a ton of oil in this monstrous parking lot. So what occurs to that water, to that oil today? And you know, there'll be parking garages there in the future if there was a similar situation with oil in the parking garage.
Right, so current today, there is loading of, bacteria and pollutants that we have criteria for understanding exactly how much impervious cover results in how much pollution per, inch of water that flows across an impervious surface. And this site is 84% impervious cover, so those calculations are quite a lot of pollution is flowing into the impervious surfaces that is catching the runoff from the site. The exact numbers are, done in really complicated models, but they have been modeled by both the applicant and reviewed by Watershed engineering staff.
Okay, thank you. One last question for staff, if I have a second. Or not, sorry, it's not staff, maybe the applicant. So today, this site, one-story, big, large retail center, if you were limited to mid-rise height, what would happen to the site?
Abby Gilfillan, if we were limited to mid-rise, it would sprawl out and cover the site. So we wouldn't have the reduction in impervious cover that you see today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I have this question for staff. Staff can hopefully help me understand. So for the redevelopment exception, do we usually, so if somebody just follows the redevelopment exception, would we usually see sort of the items that we're seeing around open space, parkland, affordable housing? What happens to some of those items that we're seeing in the PUD?
So for the Barton Springs redevelopment exception, there are certain conditions that are met, but they do not need to meet superiority like a PUD does. So for impervious cover, they could not increase impervious cover from what there is today, but they would not need to reduce impervious cover. But there is the process that we outlined earlier with purchasing mitigation land or paying into the mitigation fund, such that eventually the watershed or the area is whole, assuming we can find land to purchase.
And are parkland items and some of those other environmental items like glass reflexivity, et cetera, are they included in the redevelopment exception?
No. So, no, it's really water quality treatment, so everything needs to be treated to current standards, although if you're in excess of 40%, you don't have to meet the high bar for SOS water quality controls, and so it would be a lower water quality treatment standard that would be required. Then there's conditions about vehicle trip limits and not increasing noncompliance with critical water quality zone and CEF and other items, but there's no open space requirement or other superiority elements required.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
My follow-up question is for the applicant, and I'm not sure who would be the right person, but can y'all help me understand why y'all would go with the PUD rather than the redevelopment exception? So why did y'all choose the route of the PUD?
We, as I said, started down the path of the Barton Springs redevelopment ordinance. It's a difficult path, but it's easier than getting a 3/4 vote of the council. And we got a lot of resistance from the environmental community. And we decided, you know what? We don't want to start fighting the environmental community on day one. We're going to do this project the right way, and that's what we have today. So I'm proud of what we're presenting to you. We've got a great project, but the Barton Springs redevelopment ordinance would have been a whole lot less environmental friendly. It would have been same impervious cover, not near the water quality. We would have had to buy some mitigation land offsite.
And I appreciate that. And then I guess my follow-up question for applicant, I'm not sure if this would be your, but I know I heard that y'all are following, except for the 2 items that we've already heard about, all of the environmental commission recommendations are being accepted. Can you or someone else on your team speak to those items as well?
That is correct. They recommended we look at the height issue, implied that we reduce it, and they recommended that we look at mitigation land, and we've spoken to that.
And then apart from that, it seems like y'all are looking at the glass reflexivity, the light-related issues and some of the other items that they had as well. And it sounds like y'all are.
The glass is a technical issue that we will address when the buildings are designed.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Just on the affordable housing, I just have one follow-up. If y'all can help us, me understand. So, of course, there's a project that Mr. Rhoades will be working on as part of the site. Can you speak to the other affordable housing allowances that you have on site as well?
Yes, so this project has, the PUD ordinance is situated so that the project will provide 10% of the bonus area, and that's in square footage, not in 10% of units. And so the way the PUD ordinance is written is that a number of the buildings on this site that are tall and are generating affordable housing are non-residential buildings. So we can't incorporate residential within those buildings. The way the PUD ordinance is written is that you pay a fee in lieu into a fund. We were asked early on in this process to really consider, instead of paying a fee in lieu, to build the units on site. And so we reached out to Foundation Communities and are filing a restrictive covenant on Block 4 so that that block will be affordable. The building that Walter Moreau just spoke about will be affordable in perpetuity. In addition to that, when there is a bonus area that's generated from a residential project that's tall, a residential tower, that bonus area will be distributed throughout the site in the traditional way that affordable housing through a PUD ordinance is. So there'll be 2 programs of affordable housing on the site, one a standalone and then one integrated throughout the development. All of our affordable housing will be on site. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, you're out of time. Okay, I'm going to go and take the next one, if y'all don't mind. It's related to the substation. And I have 5 questions, so if the folks answering can try to be brief as you can. So first of all, if I could have Austin Energy staff come up, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Andy Holm. I'm the Planning Officer with Austin Energy Public Involvement in Real Estate Services.
Okay, yeah, so my question is, so we heard that the applicant is not in favor of putting the substation on the site. Does Austin Energy consider having a substation at this location critical to serving the increased load from the density that is planned for this PUD? And maybe you can explain why.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Pamela England. I'm the manager of public involvement and real estate services for Austin Energy. Austin Energy definitely needs a substation site on this property. It is critical. We absolutely cannot serve it right now with the current substations that are as close to it. They don't have the capacity. And so in order to serve the load that is dictated by this project, we will have to have a substation. Our normal substation footprint is 5 to 7 acres, and we've worked with the applicant. We have indicated that we can do a very reduced footprint to 1, maybe 1.5 acres for a gas insulated substation. It's a smaller, more compact substation. A lot of the components are in the building. The only thing that's outside on the exterior of a GIS substation is the actual transformers.
Okay. Second question, there is other land around this property. Are there any other sites that are suitable for a substation in other locations? I mean, I'm just trying to, you have across Lamar or on the other side of 360. What's wrong? Why can't we go to those other locations?
Austin Energy's current policy, we have a line extension policy, so when development occurs and we either need a substation or we need easements to bring in service from, another substation or tie into a transmission line, it's the developer's responsibility to provide that, so that, we can't forecast where the development is going to happen. And so we can't build it and then they come, because we don't know what the load is going to be. And so when development occurs, that's when we look at, from a system planning perspective, how we can serve it based on the load that's been presented to us. The preliminary load on this project is from 28 to 30 megawatts, and we would need 3 transformers to provide that.
Okay. And I was reading through some of the information in the backup. Do you agree with the developer's position that the Brodie site is not the right location for a substation to serve this growth node in South Austin? Well, I think the answer would be no, but I guess, is there any other land in or around that property that has the potential to serve this load?
There really isn't. We took a look at that. We've been working with the development team for about a year now, and the best spot from an engineering perspective so that we can tie into existing transmission is to have the substation site on the Brodie Oak site. There really isn't any other property out there. We run into the same kind of challenges that the developer does with the SOS overlay, the Save Our Springs and the Barton Creek Greenbelt. We definitely can't put a substation in parkland. A substation has to be on relatively flat ground. We can't put it on an incline like at the back of this property. So yes, the Brodie Oak site is the most advantageous from an engineering perspective and also from a cost perspective.
Okay, I'm probably almost out of time, but for the applicant, I just had a few questions. In the backup material, the response to this said the applicant is willing to provide resources. What do you mean by provide? What resources are you willing to provide?
We have been talking to Austin Energy for a long time, and we've just never been able to find a site on the property that doesn't overly impact the overall development. This is in the SOS zone across Lamar. It's not OSOS. Target, I think, is planning on a redevelopment. We don't need power for probably 4 or 5 years at the earliest. We have offered to help find land. Our client, Bart Shop and Olds, is in the real estate business. They've offered to send brokers out. Austin Energy says we prefer to find our own sites. We've thought about, well, is there a way to reduce the size of the footprint? And we've been kind of in a silent period for the last several months. The only written comment we received in the PUD was we wanted the land use to reflect a future civic use possibility. So we did that, and I think we were just kind of at an impasse of they wanted an X site that's going to seriously impact the property. We objected to that. We are on our way to City Council to get a 3/4 vote on this PUD. I am having a hard time seeing that there's maybe any city council members that want to see an electrical substation on this site. I think it would seriously impact our ability to get a 3/4 vote.
Okay.
So last Friday, we had a conversation, or maybe Thursday, with Austin Energy, very positive conversation, and we said, look, let us go on through this process. We will work with you. We'll continue to work with you. If this is truly the only place you can put a site, let's see if we can figure something out. We
Okay.
will work with you in good faith.
All right, I'm out of time, but thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, Chair Khan?
I'm willing to let him pick that up, but I did have some questions after if he wants to keep going.
I am good right now.
You're good?
Yes, thank you, though.
I had
for
a
that
quick question for Austin Energy about the footprint of the proposed substation. Could you guys elaborate a little more on that, please? You said 3 transformers, right? Switches?
It totally depends on the load, but from what they've given us, that's what we are anticipating is going to be needed for the site. It's very preliminary to pin a substation and do the design and get that rolling until we have more detail from the developer. I will tell you, one of the biggest issues that we're running into is the timing. Even though they want to start construction in 2025, and, you know, they probably will need energization, they'll need temporary power for that, but then they'll want to energize around 2027. For us to actually design a substation, and we have to take it through the land development process as well. And so the issue from Austin Energy's perspective is we don't support the passing of the PUD without a site identified for a substation, a GIS substation. And the reason for that is because we need to meet that timing. We need to design and build that substation as well as any feeders coming into and out of the substation. And that's not necessarily transmission, that's also distribution. And so if we don't have adequate time to do that, and we have a site pinned within the Brodie Oaks development that we're, everybody's agreed on and we're moving toward, we won't meet that 2027 energization date. And so for us, we don't want to be, Austin Energy doesn't want to be put in a situation where we're coming back to the Planning Commission and asking for amendments to the SOS ordinance or anything else. We want it to be ready and set to go so we can design it and we can provide some reliable power. One of the other issues is, and the developer has asked us this, the two substations that are near this are both at capacity. And Cardinal Lane is on 5th and almost Old Torf by the library there. And it is at capacity. It doesn't have any further room to be expanded. It is in a rural neighborhood or a residential neighborhood, and we just don't have any room there. We could get a feeder out of Cardinal Lane and get it to the Brodie Oaks site, but it wouldn't be reliable. And we could only get one feeder. And for the amount of load that they need, they want redundancy. We want to make sure that the power for the development is safe and reliable. And we can't do that because the length of that feeder from Cardinal Lane all the way to the Brodie Oaks property, the longer the feeder length, the less reliable the power, right?
Yes.
So we really need a site within the development.
Oh, and Mr. Armbrush, if you want to jump in on that, feel free.
We need power. Obviously, we have a vested interest in working with them to get power in a timely manner. We don't need power for 4 or 5 years, and there's an existing shopping center there, 300,000 plus square feet that all has electricity today. So there may be enough for our first phase. We're trying to reduce the demand. We were also told that their new substation really is intended, 75% of the generation would go to other parts of South Austin. 25% would be for Brodie. So we just think they're bound to be a better site, but as I said earlier, we're willing to work with them. We have a totally vested interest in making this a successful, timely facility.
Okay, thanks. That's it for me.
Can I respond to that? Am I able?
Got 57 seconds.
Okay. So if Austin Energy builds a substation, we get T-cost reimbursement for the transmission portions of the substation. If we build a substation within Brodie Oaks, in order to get that T-cost reimbursement, that substation has to provide power for more than just one development. And so that's very important. And yes, the substation would be available to serve other properties as they develop, but we also need an additional substation, and we're moving forward with an additional substation that's further south from here to pick up all that extra development. And again, it's Austin Energy's line extension policy that, the first in, first to build, they always have to provide the power. And it's just the way it is.
I'm sorry, did you really just say that Austin Energy needs money?
No, ma'am. I did not say that.
Because you're looking to go somewhere else to get money to build for a bunch of people instead of just doing a little bit of building for them?
No, that's not what I
Sorry.
said. What I said
Someone picked
was.
this up for me because, man, I either just got really confused or really, really angry. If anyone wants to ask on it, I'm sorry, I'm out of time.
Okay.
Anybody wants to pick up the questions? I think Commissioner Muchthaler, you could continue with your question, but maybe allow the Austin Energy to answer Commissioner Chair Cohen's last question. Go ahead.
I mean, if we're all going again,
We may take a vote on that. Go ahead and, so do we have any other, to your point, any other commissioners want to ask questions?
If no one else wants to pick that up, I'm happy to give a little time
Well,
to allow Austin Energy to continue
Yeah,
to
hold on.
explain.
You
the
already
situation.
went. We've got Commissioner Anderson is asking for equal time. So it would have to be somebody that hasn't asked questions yet. Commissioner Howard?
Sure, if we can continue the line of questioning with Austin Energy, if they can respond to the last question.
You can go ahead and follow up.
Okay, what I said was, when Austin Energy builds a substation, the transmission components of that substation, we get a portion of that reimbursed to us by ERCOT if it serves the general public, right? So if we build a substation within the Brodie Oaks project, we want to be able to serve other customers out of that substation as well. It's not 75-25, and we did not say that. If we build a substation within Brodie Oaks, to start with, it's going to be 2 transformers, and it's going to serve Brodie Oaks. It'll have room for a third, hopefully, and at that point, as properties develop around that area, in conjunction with the additional substation that we're doing south, then we'll be able to serve everybody. Did that make sense? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Commissioner Howard, you have additional time if you want, if you have questions.
Gosh, I don't. Trying to think. Does anybody else have any questions that they want to ask?
Well, let's pause there. So as a commission, we can suspend our rules if there's any other questions that we need to make a motion on this site. So,
Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Yanis
Excuse
Polito.
me. Thank you. I used about 45 seconds, maybe a minute of my time. I was wondering if I could ask one more question, unless you feel we need to take it to a vote.
I would like to go ahead and just, given the time tonight, let's go ahead and take a vote. Let me throw this out. Are there any objections to suspending our rules? And I'm going to throw this out to allow for 3 more commissioners at 3 minutes each. Are there any objections to that? Commissioner Thompson?
I don't have an objection to Commissioner Yanis Polito using the balance of her time.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily wanting to open it up to more time from the same commissioners who've already asked questions.
Okay. So,
Chair, Commissioner Liaison Andrew Rivera, from a procedural standpoint, it's difficult to do a balance of time if you can proceed with a modification.
well, okay. So I'm hearing, let's take a vote on 3 at 3 minutes. Those in favor on the dais, please raise your hand. 3, okay, that's everybody on the dais. Those on the screen in favor of extending questions 3 for 3 minutes. Okay, that's everybody. So we'll start with Commissioner Yanis Polito. So this will allow you to, go ahead, Commissioner Azar. Okay, and Commissioner Azar is next. And I'm going to go ahead and, well, let's go ahead and start with those 2. Go ahead and start.
Hopefully won't use it all, and I'll give it back and not ask for it back. My question is actually about the affordable housing piece, and I think it's for staff because I appreciated the Q&A on foundation communities, but as I understand, that is still, it seems that is lower than what our typical 10% standard would be. So I was wondering if staff could explain how the value of that was calculated in terms of superiority, just given that it seems like 10% would be more units than we're getting, closer to 170 affordable units. Is that correct?
The foundation, Wendy Rhoades, Housing and Planning, the Foundation Communities Project is approximately 125 units. And then with regards to your question, and unfortunately, we do not have affordable housing staff here tonight, but our superiority was based on, for affordable housing, is based on the on-site provision of that and in a set-aside site, and that it would be constructed as, or it would be built in the second of the phases. So that was our basis of superiority.
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
With regards to affordable housing,
The basis for superiority.
the
Can you just
basis for
repeat that?
superiority was the on-site location of affordable housing rather than a fee in lieu. The commitment of a site on the property as part of the PUD, and that it would be, it has a timeframe that's been expressed after 2027. So that was our basis.
Okay, is that standard for a PUD? It seems like sometimes we get a combination of on-site and fee in lieu, but this, you were saying this was on-site instead of any fee in lieu?
Correct, yes. I think usually, well, the PUDs that I've been involved with has more recently have included the financial contribution.
Okay, and so you said 125 units, and is it 1,700 total?
It's a total of 200, but the Foundation Communities project is approximately 125 of that 200, and then the remainder would be spread throughout the project.
Okay. All right, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go with Commissioner Mush-Teller, if you're ready with your remaining questions, or do you want to go next?
No, Commissioner Howard picked it up for AE. I'm fine. Thank you.
All right, then we move, so nothing there, we move to Commissioner Azar.
Thank you. This is a question, I'm not sure, Ms. Rhoades, if it's for you or for Watershed staff. If Austin Energy takes over a bit of the site and develops a substation, would the impervious cover from that substation count towards the overall impervious cover for the PUD, or is that considered separate as public land?
The impervious cover would be considered as part of the overall impervious cover for the PUD, so we would ask that it not increase the amount of impervious cover than what we are agreeing to today.
Got it. Thank you. So I guess my question then for the applicant is that something that you all had input, or at that point, are we talking about increasing impervious cover because now we have this substation in there that wasn't considered in your initial planning?
It would obviously have an impact on the project from a financial standpoint if we couldn't increase the impervious cover by what they would add. So I guess we go higher, just joking. But it would have an impact on the project. We'd have to reduce it somewhere.
I appreciate that. And I guess for our Austin Energy staff, if y'all can help me understand, what would the design of the substation look like? I think you mentioned 3 to 4 acres, if I'm correct, and what would the impervious cover for that look like?
Can you repeat your question, please?
Sure. So for regular, I'll break it up. So first, how much of acreage are we asking for the substation?
It's 1 to 1.5 acres.
Got it. And for a regular substation design, do we know what does the impervious cover for that look like? Is it usually 100% impervious cover? What? Don't know.
Yes, yes.
Got it. So now we would be.
It's 100%.
Okay. So if I'm understanding this correctly, now we're asking of adding 1.5 acres of impervious cover to the original proposal, which would either require us to increase impervious cover, which is not acceptable to our watershed staff, or we would have to somehow bring it into the original planning of the project, which was not considered. Did you want to say something?
Correct. It would be part of the amount of impervious cover that would then need to be treated to the water quality standards. And the applicant has done quite a lot of modeling with Austin Water and Watershed Protection Engineering staff to make sure that they can meet the high bar of SOS water quality treatment. And so adding impervious cover would throw that into the question.
Of course, that's a bit of a concern. I guess my last question for the applicant is, it sounds like you all are not saying no to the substation. What I'm hearing is you will continue to work on this as this goes to council. Did I hear that correctly?
That is correct, and, hopefully we could find a design that, if it's going to be on site, that we could find a design that works with a building in a parking garage or some part of the project that makes it work. You look around at big cities and, you go to Chicago, New York, or wherever, You don't see big substations downtown. There must be ways to do this in an urban design manner. So we're going to work with them in good faith to find something that works if this is really truly the only site.
Okay. So we do have one more spot for 3 minutes. You don't have to take it, but if it is open, anybody wants questions? Mr. Anderson? Nope, okay. All right. So that concludes our Q&A. So do we have any motions? And remember, we're taking up the 3 items together. I think I saw Commissioner Mushthaler first, if I'm not mistaken. Her hand was up. Go ahead and, do you have a motion you'd like to propose?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm doing this right or not, so. And I would like to speak to my motion afterwards.
Okay.
I'm going to motion that Planning Commission does not grant this superiority.
All right, does that, okay, so that would be not approving the PUD? Is that what you're intending? I guess on all 3.
I don't know how to do this. I may need some help. I'm not against the PUD. I don't believe it meets superiority.
Okay, I hear you. Commissioner.
And I don't know how to word this. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Mr. Rivera, our choices here is we kind of need to take, we have staff recommendation and we can propose things, amendments or additions to staff recommendation. That would be one way to approach it. Or if we fail to approve this staff recommendation, then of course it would move forward without a recommendation. So I guess I don't know how to employ that motion in this case of this PUD.
Chair Commission Liaison Andrew Rivera. So Commissioner Mushthaler has a motion, which would need a second, but currently it would just be to deny the request and deny the associated cases.
Okay. All right, do we have a second on the motion? Commissioner Yanis-Polito?
Just to clarify, is it a move to deny?
It's a motion to deny.
I'll second.
Okay, so go ahead and speak to your motion, Commissioner Mushthaler.
There are some awesome and exciting elements to what is being put together here. And I want to give credit to the developer for being, so approachable to the groups that would like to meet, certainly to me in my process through this. And I want to be clear that I'm not a no that this can't ever go forward. I just don't think we're there today. I think I've got a list of about 10 items that I've got to amend in any kind of recommendation to get this to council, and there are just too many open items here. It's not ready to go yet. We don't have memorandums of understanding on BCP. We don't have memorandums of understanding on foundation communities. We don't have electrical infrastructure for this project yet, and there's not a clear path of resolution for that. And I don't see it being resolved in the next 2 weeks or so. This is going to take more planning. There are a lot of concerns about the environment. I think you need to get mitigation land. There are lots of municipalities. What didn't get answered properly is that there are a lot of municipalities that draw water that comes through this aquifer downstream from us. What kind of neighbor are we to the other municipalities or the east side if we don't care what happens to the water after it gets flushed through our own toilet? That's wrong. So we need mitigation land on that. We need proper measures in it. It's not a bad development. It's very exciting, and there are a lot of things about it that look to be better than what is currently there today. I just don't think it's there today, and I welcome the opportunity to come back and get this through when it is ready.
All right, those speaking against this motion? Vice Chair Hempel.
Chair, I'd like to make a substitute motion.
Please.
Okay, so my motion is for moving forward on items 2, 3, and 4 as recommended. Item 2 is recommended with conditions. Item 3 is recommended as per staff, and then number 4 is recommended as per staff with conditions. I need a second.
Are the, do you have a second? Commissioner Anderson seconds. You want to go and speak to the motion?
Yes, I had a completely different take based on my meetings with the applicant and their team. I think there's been a tremendous amount of engagement, work, careful negotiations, a lot of thought. Every question that I had about every aspect of the plan, especially when I met on site, was responded to with they had already thought about it. So I feel this meets superiority. Staff has put a lot of effort into this as well. And so that's why I feel this is ready to move forward. Some of these issues, like with AE, the zoning, which is what we're concerned about here, has that as a use within what they're proposing. We're not doing site plan here at Planning Commission. So I think that can be resolved later.
Okay, speaking against this motion? Any commissioners? Oh, Commissioner Yans-Polito, thank you.
My concerns here are less about the Austin Energy issue specifically and more about the overall precedent associated with letting a PUD this size, which this is a tremendous amount of density and this is a tremendous amount of new revenue generation. And I love a lot of the environmental considerations and concessions that are given in the project. However, the redevelopment is 3 times over the SOS ordinance level on site, and we're not seeing the off-site mitigation. And knowing what Barton Springs and the Edwards Aquifer have looked like, well, nobody knows what the Edwards Aquifer looks like up close, but I mean, seeing the difference, if you've been here long enough to see what happened after Circle C development, why people protested Barton Creek Mall for so many years, it's because this is an environmentally sensitive area that we can never get back. That cave, if it's destroyed, the sinkholes along Barton Creek, you can never get it back. The height issue, the precedent of these extremely carbon unfriendly not skyscrapers, but higher than mid-rises is beyond Imagine Austin. I think that's very true. And we have an incredibly environmentally sensitive area that can domino in a way that we can't undo that damage. So I think the mitigation needs to be there and needs to be there for precedent. And that's why I am not for the PUD at this time.
Okay, thank you. I am going to I had some amendments here, and I think this is the right time to propose these and see if I can get some support. So the first amendment to the substitute motion I'm proposing is to recommend that site plan approval be contingent on successfully securing property for the substation serving the Brodie PUD development. So that is, that would, I know that might not satisfy the timing that AE has, but at least that would be an element of site plan approval. So that's one amendment. Do I have a second?
Can you repeat that, Chair?
Recommend that site plan approval be contingent on successfully securing property for the substation required to serve Brodie PUD development.
Since nobody has seconded that, would you mind? I have a little bit of concern about the fact that the vast majority of the substation that was currently put out there doesn't even serve this site. So would you be willing to say that before site plan, they locate power for the site, working with Austin Energy?
Sure, I think it meets the intent.
Okay, thank you. I'll second that.
Okay. So to move, do we have any commissioners, just to move things along, anyone opposed to this motion? This amendment? Vice Chair, I'm sorry,
Chair.
Commissioners are.
I think I'm going to be voting against this item, partially because I think I'm a little concerned. I think the impervious cover implications are really large. At the end of the day, I understand there is an Austin Energy need, but that needs to be resolved at staff. Putting this requirement in either means that we now have a substation instead of parkland, or we have a substation instead of housing, or we have a substation instead of commercial areas that people can enjoy. And all three of those, as currently stand, without any changes in the impervious cover requirement, that's a big concern for me. So I'll be voting against just because
Okay.
I think it needs to be resolved further.
So just to clarify, it is not stating that it has to be on site. It's just saying that it needs to be determined how to get power to the site, just so my amendment was clear.
I appreciate that
Okay.
clarification. That actually might help me change my mind.
All right. Any others want to speak for or against this motion? Amendment to the substitute motion?
Applicant, what they think.
All right, let's go ahead and take a vote. So this is just saying prior to site plan that the issue of providing Austin Energy and the applicant have determined how to provide power to this site. Let's go and take a vote. Those on the dais. All right, that's 3. Those virtual. So that's 7. I see an extension, and then your vote, 7-2, so that passes as an amendment to the substitute motion. My second amendment is, I want to put this out there. I know there's been a lot of work on the height and potential impacts to the view, but recommend increasing height on the buildings to allow space within the buildable area to allow for a substation without exceeding the allowable impervious cover limits. And I can restate that again if needed. This is basically recommending that council look at increasing height as an option to allow for the substation to be sited on the property and without exceeding the proposed impervious cover limits. I have a second from Commissioner Muchthaler. I don't think I need to speak to that one. It's just, it's allowing for more height. So, speaking for or against?
Chair, can I just ask for clarification? Would this be height and FAR both or just height?
So I've already stated it's just a height increase.
Okay. So, just for clarification, I'm good.
Okay, any commissioners want to speak for or against the amendment to the substitute motion?
I'm sorry, Chair, could you restate it once more?
Yes, recommend increasing height on buildings to allow space within the buildable area to allow for a substation to be constructed without exceeding the proposed impervious cover limits. All right, any other commissioners want to speak for or against? So this is an amendment to the substitute motion. This is by myself, seconded by Commissioner Muchthaler. Let's go and take a vote. Those on the dais in favor? That's for those on the screen. So that's, okay, that's everyone. Thank you very much. All right, I did have one more, but I don't think it makes sense right now. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with those 2. All right, so we have those 2 amendments that have passed to the substitute motion. Go ahead, Commissioner Muchthaler.
I think I understand how this is done. I'd like to make an additional amendment to the substitute motion.
Okay.
Forgive me, I'm learning. Okay. I got a few here, so we'll see how this goes. First, I would like to make an amendment that we will require the applicant to work with applicable nonprofits and to apply for the trail master plan permit through the BCP prior to issuance of the first site plan.
All right, so restate that one more time, because you're asking for two things. Fine.
Require the applicant to work with applicable nonprofits to apply for a trail master plan permit through BCP prior to the issuance of the first site plan. And if it will please the commission, I have applicant support, I believe.
All right, do we have a second on this amendment? Commissioner Azar seconds that. Do you want to speak to your motion, your amendment?
They've actually, the applicant could probably state it better. They've been working on this, but I said that it would make me feel a lot better to actually have this included if this is going through, that they will be working on trail master plan with BCP. It's a process that goes through BCP, so we don't control any of that, neither does council, but they are agreeable to taking the steps necessary.
Okay, any commissioner, go ahead, Commissioner Anderson.
So for both of your amendments, I mean, I can understand, working with Austin Energy to find power for phase one. I can understand the idea of a taller building in the same FAR. But for this one, I would like to ask the applicant what their thoughts are on this.
Okay, so applicant, just a response to this motion, this amendment.
We are already working with the nonprofit groups to do exactly what Jennifer asked us to do. My only concern is we don't know how long that process would take, so tying it to the site plan, it gives me great concern. The federal government doesn't act as quickly as we like it to sometimes, so.
My motion only asks that the application has been filed, not that the government has actually approved it.
We're okay.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. All right. Any other commissioners want to speak for or against this amendment? Let's go ahead and move forward with the vote. Those on the dais. Oh, let's go ahead and restate it one more time. I just want to get it for the record because we're going to have to record all these. Let's just make sure we're clear on what we're voting on.
The applicant will work with applicable nonprofits to apply for a trail master plan permit through the BCP prior to the issuance of the first site plan.
Okay, thank you. Those on the dais in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. Those on the screen, please show me your green card if you're in favor. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right. Do we have any other?
More.
Oh, okay. Commissioner.
Sorry, I
Commissioner
said I
Mitchell.
had about 10 of them if we were going to go this
No,
route.
that's totally part of the process. Go ahead.
All right. My next one is to tag on to parks. I believe it came from Parks, that I would like to make a motion to require restrooms, public restrooms at buildings closest to the trailheads and the neighborhood park. The parks one only addressed the neighborhood park and not the trailhead.
Okay, do we have a second for this amendment? Do you want to hear from the applicant?
Yes, and I thought that the applicant is ready to.
Okay, yes, let's go ahead and hear from the applicant on this one.
I would just say that we're amenable to that, and that's already in the plan, that we are required to have restrooms for both parks.
Okay.
Go ahead and second that.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Czar. I'm going to go and speed things along. If there's no opposition to skipping any speaking for or against and taking a vote, let's go and take a quick vote. Those on the dais and those on the screen in favor of this. Okay, that passes.
Okay. Next, and I'm not sure how to word this. Somebody's going to have to help me. Amendment to the substitute motion for a third-party oversight of water quality during development and after site development. Water quality drainage, sorry. So third-party oversight of water quality drainage during development and post.
Commissioner Azar seconds that. You want to speak to this motion? Commissioner, what did I say? I'm sorry.
Anderson
I'm
seconds.
sorry. Commissioner Anderson seconded that motion. Getting ahead of myself.
Well, again, this is the land of good intentions. The applicant has shown good intention to do this. Actually, we discussed this in our discussions. They were amenable to third party. I just don't know how to construct the motion to do what I'm trying to do. But I think it would help public environmental groups to know that this is being looked at by an outside body.
All right, to speed things along, do we have any commissioners that want to speak for or against this? Do we have any opposition to this amendment from any commissioners? Okay, we're going to go ahead and include that amendment. Okay. All right.
Next one, again, applicant has agreed in our discussion.
Oh, you want to?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, let's
Chair,
go take a vote.
Point of order, that is a vote of affirmation according to Robert's Rules of Order. If no one opposes, that is a rule of, or a vote of affirmation. Sorry.
Okay, all right, moving on.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The next.
It's your turn.
Applicant will provide coop scoop stations and trash cans throughout the green spaces.
Okay,
Where-
Commissioner Anderson seconds this. Similarly, any opposition to skipping the speaking for or against? I see no opposition. Is there any opposition to this amendment to the substitute motion? All right, we're going to go ahead and, that amendment is approved. All
Okay.
right, any others?
I've got another one.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I can't see the dais. Speaking?
Go ahead.
Okay, next one is kind of a note for staff. I would like, they will have, I don't know if it's to execute or have, I guess it's to execute, the MOU with BCP for access to the Airman's Cave prior to going to council. They've had it for a while. Let's get that done.
So council, council is going to take this up. Do we know the date?
Chair, Commissioner Liaison Andrew Rivera, that's scheduled for December 1st.
Okay, so do we have a second on this? A clarifying question from Commissioner Azar.
So this is a question for staff. Since this is a private, I guess, agreement between two parties and the city's not a part of it, would this be something, I guess, are we just saying that staff would facilitate this, or can staff intervene in an MOU between BCP and the applicant?
I think it's less of an MOU and more of an easement that needs to be executed, and it is, the paperwork is sitting in with law now, and they have indicated that at least by second or third reading, it should be done.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Okay, so I'm a little confused. This is not an MOU, this is an easement?
I'm not aware of an MOU, I'm aware of an easement.
Okay, so does anyone, applicant, do you have anything to add before we, just to clarify the motion?
You could call it an MOU, but basically in technical terms, it's an easement, access easement for monitoring of the cave.
And while you're there, do you have any objections with this item? This
Have any
amendment?
what?
Do you have any objections with this amendment?
It's out of our control, so if you're telling the staff to get it done, we're with you. But I don't want to make it a condition, really.
All right, so so do you want to go ahead and, do you need to restate your motion, Commissioner Muschtaller?
Can I phone a friend for assistance?
Yeah.
I don't know how to state it. I'm sorry. I know there's a way to do this cleanly. I'm
I
sorry.
think we're just, I guess I'm speaking to calling it an access easement instead of the MOU. That's all I'm looking for. You,
Okay, so this is an amendment to substitute motion to have the legal, the documentation for the access easement for BCP completed prior to going to council.
Can I clarify, is that before third reading?
Oh,
Of
okay,
council?
prior to third reading?
okay, yes, we haven't got a
I
second yet,
accept.
so I think.
Yeah, I accept.
All right, so prior to third reading, I think everybody clear on the motion. Do we have a second? Commissioner Azar seconds that. All right, anybody want to speak for or against? Okay, Commissioner Anderson has a question for staff.
So is this something that staff feels comfortable is going to happen? And is there any potential third-party roadblock to doing this and seeing this through? Like, I'm just curious what we're getting into here.
So it's not in our hands, it's in law's hands, but the staff that are responsible for doing that did tell me that they believe that that's not an issue, making sure that it is completed before a third reading, so.
Okay, thank you. And real quick, Chair, I just.
All right, Commissioner Anderson.
Applicant, if you don't mind, just could you share a few more thoughts on this before third reading? I think that was a good addition, but do you have heartburn? Do you think it's a good amendment?
Could we say that it would be included in the PUD ordinance, which would be third reading, or it would be a condition of the PUD ordinance? It's in the legal department. It's a very simple document. It's like 2 pages. So it doesn't seem that hard, but it is totally out of our control.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay.
Is that good? Can you go into PUD ordinance?
So any commissioners want to speak for or against? All right, let's go ahead and, go ahead, Commissioner Azar.
Chair, if I might restate the motion, Commissioner Mushtaq, tell me, because I feel like we just did a number of different things here. So I think we're asking staff to complete the documentation for an agreement with BCP to allow access to the caves before, access to the caves as a condition for the PUD ordinance.
Before third reading. Okay.
Okay, so that, I don't know if those things are synonymous, are they?
They are actually, I think so.
Okay, just because we would need to, we already had a second, so you think we're okay?
I think so.
Okay, all right. So let's go, are there any objections, any one opposed to this amendment? All right, no opposition, so we're going to go ahead and, that's been approved as an amendment to the substitute motion.
Okay, last one. Amendment to substitute motion, last one. I would like to require the acquisition of either mitigation land or conservation easement that would be dedicated to BCP so that the impervious cover of the 2 tracks meets the SOS standards.
We've got a second by Commissioner Yanis-Polito. You want to go and speak to this one, Commissioner Mushtaq?
I think we've spoken to it a lot. I think this is really important. The project is interesting. We don't know the full impacts of bringing that density over these environmentally sensitive areas. We have downstream neighbors that rely on these areas. We need to do our best to be good stewards. And it is not clear to me that people felt that this was not necessary. It just was not required. I think it ought to be a requirement.
Just a point of clarification on this before we move forward is, so this, as I understand, would be, they're agreeing to, the applicant, 52% impervious cover? Is that correct? 56, and the, and 20% is the SOS ordinance? 15%.
Leslie Lilly with Watershed Protection. According to the redevelopment exception, the mitigation land would be at a 20% impervious cover. To be compliant with SOS ordinance, the area of the site over the recharge is limited to 15%, and the contributing zone is 20%, and both of those conditions are present on the site.
Okay, so just to clarify, the mitigation would be what is required, the land, I guess, between 56%, and how do you calculate that? I just want to be clear of what we're asking for here.
The requirement, as it's written in code, is laid out in the redevelopment exception, and that is at 20% for the redevelopment exception.
Okay, so is that, Commissioner Mooschauer, are you proposing the difference, mitigation land that makes up for the difference between 56% and 20%? Is that your ask?
I apologize. I don't know how staff has done all the calculations on this. There have been credits awarded here and there. I know that they were supposed to have 29 some odd acres, and we're getting 11 acres with credits. I don't know how that calculation is run. That's beyond me.
Okay. All right. Okay. Commissioner Anderson.
Quick, maybe two questions for staff. So staff, I believe you landed on recommending these items as they are, reducing the impervious cover, not requiring this offsite mitigation. Can I ask how you landed there and what was behind that thought?
So originally, when the redevelopment exception versus the SOS site-specific amendment was in question, the conditions that are required to be met for the redevelopment exception, according to staff, was too low of a bar to be a baseline for environmental superiority. So that regulatory trajectory for approving superiority was decided to not be the direction, and instead going with the SOS site-specific amendment alongside the PUD ordinance and looking at that through the lens of Tier 1 and Tier 2 superiority elements as they're related to the environment was the way to assess superiority and not the redevelopment exception requirements.
Thank you for that. I think I'm hearing some misunderstanding of current conditions versus this proposal built out. And we're hearing things like we need to think about folks downstream. Can you talk about the water that leaves this site today under current conditions versus what we envision under this build out? And is it better or worse after built out?
So the water that leaves the site today, it potentially enters the Edwards Aquifer at recharge, features somewhere off-site. So the impervious cover that flows off-site is likely, going in some places and to some extent into the Edwards Aquifer or into the Colorado River. The municipalities downstream that have drinking water that is sourced from the Edwards Aquifer include San Antonio. So the lack of water quality treatment today on the 84 acres provides a condition that the water quality is quite a lot higher. To what extent the pollution is and the sedimentation, I don't have the exact numbers, but it's quite a bit higher than what is required by current code and criteria today. And the proposal would improve the water quality flowing off-site into the Edwards Aquifer to the undeveloped condition. And that's the condition without development and impervious cover. So the proposed compliance with SOS non-degradation water quality requirements would be quite a bit of an improvement from current conditions today.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have, well, I'm not clear on, I guess, go ahead and restate your motion. We need to go ahead and act on this one. And this has already been seconded, so go ahead and restate it one more time.
Okay, so my motion is to require mitigation through either land purchase or a conservation easement such that the overall impervious cover is less than 20% for the development site and any mitigation track taken together.
Okay, so we had second by Commissioner Yanis-Polito. Do we have any commissioners that want to speak for or against this item? We need Vice Chair Hempel.
I'd like to speak against this. So there's two pathways that this team could have chosen to go. One of them is what we're talking about here tonight with amending the SOS ordinance, which requires a supermajority at council to achieve. And they went that path knowing that that is a very high bar, very difficult to achieve, which is why they went over and above on the water quality items that they have in their proposal. The redevelopment exception, which has the much lower water quality that staff has described, is what requires the off-site mitigation because they're just not able to do it on site. And so the team has worked for a very long time with environmental stakeholders on the more difficult path. So I just don't think that this one makes sense. And then you're asking the team to both do the much harder path, but also purchase at least 100 acres of land somewhere else.
Right. Speak in favor. I think Commissioner Muchthaler, I think you had already spoken. So
I just, if nobody else can clarify that point, I can clarify.
wait, we need, those speaking in favor? Anyone want to speak against? Commissioner Azar.
I'll keep this very quick. I'll be voting against as well. Commissioner Muchthaler, I really appreciate what and understand the intent of what you're trying to do here, but I'm just going to build on what the Vice Chair just said. My concern here is I think we're essentially incentivizing in the future for folks to go and do the redevelopment exception and just go with that, not come to us with any superiority on environment, superiority on parkland, superiority on housing and affordable housing, transit infrastructure, walkability, biking. We get nothing. All we get is a redevelopment exception with that offsite mitigation requirement. And so I think that's where I am at, where I want to make sure that in the future we really get folks who do that part, particularly if we have asked them to take this higher threshold requirement, then we should in some ways honor that.
Okay. Let's go and take a vote if there's no opposition. Yeah. There's, yes, there are a for and against slot. Anybody want to speak for or against? Anywhere? No? Commissioner, well, go ahead, Commissioner Muchthaler. I'll let you go one more time.
If no one else will take it, I want to clarify. That path to choose an SOS site amendment is very property specific. That there wasn't a choice. They are creating it. It didn't exist before. They asked for the opportunity to do this, and they asked for the opportunity to go to council majority, and that's fair, and that's fine. But in order to have our recommendation on it, there is a thought process that not only are the water recapture and all the things they're doing required to compensate for the development and all the height and everything that's coming to increase the density, but that in addition to that, we need both pieces. That one of them alone by themselves isn't enough to achieve and protect that environment the way we want to. And when we look at the density that's going to come there and what the traffic is going to drive, there's not one scientist out there that can tell you what it's going to do. So the idea was that both of those components would be needed for mitigation, and that's in your backup from SOS.
Okay, Commissioner Anderson, this is the last spot.
Thank you, Chair. I will not be supporting this. I appreciate staff looking into this really hard and coming up with their recommendation and seeing that we are dramatically reducing impervious cover, and that today us just flushing this entire parking lot into the aquifer versus the water quality that we'll be adding after this is built out, it's night and day difference. And so I can't be supporting this because it feels like an unintentional poison pill to add a tremendous amount of cost to buy a lot of land upstream to prevent maybe this redevelopment, this much needed redevelopment from occurring. Thank you.
Okay, let's go and take a vote. Those in favor of this amendment on the dais, please raise your hand. Those on the virtual screen in favor of this amendment? Okay, those not in favor, opposed on the dais? And those opposed virtually? All right, so that motion fails with Commissioners Anderson, Azar, Thompson, Howard, Vice Chair Hempel, and Flores voting Opposed? Okay. All right. Commissioner Muschtaller, are you, okay, good job. I like it. That's a lot of good work. Thank you. That's the other way to get to where you're trying to go. All right, any other commissioners before we continue with we had one for and against speaker on the substitute motion. Are there any more speakers on the substitute motion? For or against? All right, so okay. So this vote, then, the substitute motion, I'm going to just be clear, it's the motion by Vice Chair Hempel, seconded by Commissioner Anderson, to grant staff recommendations for items 2, 3, and 4 as amended. Is everybody clear on that? Okay, so we're taking a vote on the substitute motion. All right, those, we had a few more. Okay, I don't think we had any more speakers. Let's go and take a vote. Those on the dais in favor of the substitute motion as amended. All right, that's 4. Those virtually that are in favor of the substitute motion. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, those opposed to this substitute motion, Commissioner Yanis-Polito. So the motion passes 8-1 to 0 with Commissioner Yanis-Polito voting against. All right, thank you very much. I think we're done with the Brodie. PUD, thank you very much for answering our questions. All right, the next item is the compatibility, and I'm sorry to do this to folks, but a 5-minute break would really help me quite a bit. So let's go and take a break here. It's 8:35, come back at 8:40. Thank you very much. Commissioners here on the dais, those virtually, if you can go ahead and show your faces, we'll get started as soon as we get the quorum. All right, so that's 7. We have quorum. Mr. Rivera, do you have?